and welcome back. Happy hot and humid Saturday. It is now going to be August 8th and I'm behind on seed starting, but what is new? So hey, if you're new here, my name is Christy. I am located in Western Massachusetts, Zone 6A, and this is my second year selling flowers at my roadside flower stand. And we are starting another cool hardy annual called Feverfew, and some of these Feverfew seeds are going to be purchased ones, while others I actually just went in my yard and harvested some Feverfew, and we're going to see if we can get a whole extra tray worth from the Feverfew that I had in my garden. So if you're new to cool flowers, it is basically when you are going to be starting all of your flowers. I use a heat mat, I use grow lights, you name it. I'm going to be growing them and using all of these materials in the basement. So it's going to be nice and cool there because these cool hardy annuals, even though it's super hot out right now, we are going to start them. They're still going to need some warmer temperatures just to germinate, and then they need some cooler temperatures to grow on. So definitely make sure you read the back of your seed packet. So for instance, like Campanula, it requires just 10 hours of light a day, so that way they are not trying to bloom on you too early, and they'll stay nice and short, so that way when we plant them out, which I'm hoping to sometime in September, but some of these like Feverfew, I probably am not going to actually plant them out until October at some point. And I will be using some hoops and some frost cloth just to hopefully let them settle in with their roots, because I'm trying to see what I can plant out when I have my new space available, which won't be until sometime in October. Once I get that date, I'll know a little bit better if I should just plant them out. But the issue is the tilled area that I am using, that is going to be an access point for all of the equipment to go to the backyard from the front yard. So everything is going to be run over. So I can't plant anything out there. I had that as a nice holding spot last year for all of like my Rebecca. And then I would just dig them up and I transplanted them to where I wanted them to grow on. So I don't have that. And then all of these raised beds behind me, those are going to be for like Sweet Williams. I'm going to need them for ranunculus. What else am I going to need them for? Campanula is going to go there as well. So we're going to have to see. And then Larkspur will be back there. Same thing with my Nigella. So anything that's a cool hardy annual, I want to try and keep in this area behind me. So that way it's going to be easy for me to put all of the row cover on and off. And then have only a few out in the field. But Feverfew, since it does come back, hopefully for a few years, I am hoping to have a patch that will maybe even just reseed itself out in the new area. So the Feverfew, we're going to start a little bit later on, but I love Feverfew, and there is a huge difference between the Feverfew that we planted out this spring, even the Winterstone milk jugs, and then the Feverfew that I planted last fall. So the Feverfew I planted last fall, it was like 5 feet tall. It was big, branchy, bushy. It was amazing. It was so lush, and I could use so many stems from it, whether it was just cutting off lots of side small branches for little baby mason jars, and then leaving those nice longer ones for my wrapped bouquets. And I did not have enough. I probably could have beds and beds of Feverfew and just not get sick of it. So the ones that we planted out this spring, they were super short. I'm talking about maybe 6 to 8 inches. I mostly use those just for little accents in my jelly jars when I had any events that customers wanted jelly jar arrangements because they were nice and small. The stem length was totally fine. Or my 4-ounce mason jars. Those were obviously perfect. But for a regular sized mason jar or a wrap bouquet, they did not make the cut. But that's fine because they're going to rebloom next year. And then I also planted my Winterstone milk jugs, which I'm pretty sure a lot of them got eaten by the bunny, and they're maybe an inch tall. So I'm hoping next year we'll have lots of patches of Feverfew, but we're going to be starting 2 trays worth today. So I do have some that I purchased from the Gardener's Workshop and a little bit that were left over, I believe, from Swallowtail. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to see what I can use for free seeds from my garden, because who doesn't love free seeds? So if you have not started it yet, see if you still have some time. With cool hardy annuals, there is a little bit of a math that you need to do with counting backwards from some weeks. So just to go over that super quickly, you want to know your average first frost date. Mine is going to be mid-October, around October 12th, October 15th. I think the actual date is October 15th and October 12th, if I remember correctly, is when we had our first frost. But then we still had nights for about a week or two with no frost. I was able to save my dahlias for another week or so with some frost cloth, and then the real frost started kicking in end of October. So if you know your average first frost date, mark it on your calendar. You're going to count backwards 4 weeks. That is when you want to plant out your transplants. So for me, that will be around mid-September. And then maybe, I think last year I did about 8 weeks back. They recommend 4 to 8 weeks. I think 8 weeks was a little bit too early. I remember I have things that like snapdragons that I thought were going to start blooming. So we're going to stick with the 4 weeks. Once I have those 4 weeks, you're going to count back another anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, depending on what you're growing. Some things need to be started 5 to 6 weeks. Some need 6 to 8 weeks. So I suggest just checking the back of your seed packet so you know when to start. So with feverfew, it is considered a short living perennial. So you might get a few years out of it. It does reseed itself, which is also really great. And it is hardy to zones 5. So I'm zone 6, so it should be good for me. And I know it is. I've had great success with it for the past few years. So I'm very excited to start some more. And it does say not to cover with soil. So we are just going to surface sow them, cover them with some vermiculite for moisture control because I did not do it for my campanula and they are suffering. I also did forget to turn the lights on for a day and water them. So that didn't help. But it's definitely due to my error. So with feverfew, you want to start them anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks before you transplant them out. And these can take anywhere from 7 to 14 days to germinate. And the ones that I have from Swallowtail, it just says organic feverfew. It does say that you want to make sure that when you do have them on their heat mat, you want to have the temperature around 65 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. So I just put in a little probe. I also have a humidity dome on top as well, just to lock in that moisture. So we're going to be doing dirt. Then we're going to put seeds. Then we are going to water them in with my mister, add vermiculite, make sure we get that mister on it again, just so that way everything is settled, has good contact with the soil. I'll put them on my heat mat, probably keep it around 68 degrees because it does get a little bit warmer once the lights are on. And then once the probe is in, I'll put my humidity dome on top and then I'll have the lights on during the day, probably around 14 to 16 hours. I usually put them on around 5 and then I kind of remember to turn them off, or my husband does it for me around 8 or 9 o'clock at night, but the heat mat will stay on. I always try to make sure that I give them a good misting in the morning and then again at night, but definitely in the morning because sometimes I forget to turn them off at night. I do have a timer, except every time I put it together, my kids always play with it and turn it off. So I just have timers on my phone right now until I can just make sure that they don't push the actual timer that I have my lights plugged into. So with that being said, I need to fill some trays. So I think I'm going to do 120 cell count trays. I could do 72s, but they're not going to be in there that long. And I can always pot them up if I really feel like I need to. But right now I'm just kind of tight on space. And if I can get a whole tray from the seeds I collected, that would be awesome. So let's get to it and see if we can get this done before my little one wakes up. And I will check in with you guys super soon. I'm just going to fill up the trays. So if I've not told you yet, it's hot. And I'm going to try and do this as quick as I can. So we do have Vegmo single from the Gardener's Workshop. It's like the little small daisy-like one. It has a yellow center and then the little white petals. It's super cute. And then this one just says organic feverfew, so I'm just going to use whatever I have left over. I feel like it is absolutely impossible to just put one seed in at a time. So these are going to be pelleted seeds, which makes it a lot easier. And then we're just going to do all the Vegmos, 1 per cell. And then once I get to the organic feverfew from Swallowtail, we're just going to tap them in. And then when it comes to the ones we harvested, I am just going to smush and scatter them all over. I forgot to mention, I do like to use ProMix potting soil. I have found it to be just great and haven't had any issues. I stopped using seed starting mix because it was just way too expensive. And again, today is going to be August 8th. So we are going to get these in. These do need to be surface sown, so we're not going to cover them with any soil, but I will be putting vermiculite on. And when I do my seed trays, I make sure that I give them a good firm push down, fill them again with more soil, push it down, and then do a nice like lighter layer on the top, and then I pat it down because I don't want these seeds to get lost. So I do make sure that, you know, the surface isn't like super firmly pushed down, but you know, the seeds aren't going to be jumbled and fall in between any pockets of the soil. So we are going to just put them like this, and they are, again, I don't know if you can even see that. They're super small little yellow pelleted seeds, and I am just going to, again, try and put one. Pelleted seeds and I are not the best of friends, but I actually did really good with my Sweet Williams compared to the Campanula. I think I just made sure that they stayed under that humidity dome for a little bit longer than I usually will do, and I had some really good luck with it. Sometimes I'll get like, I don't know, 70% germination, and then I will just take the dome off and put it under the grow lights, and then the rest of them just don't seem to catch up. So this time around, I tried to wait for a little bit more to germinate, especially because I had the vermiculite on. It'll help with that moisture control. So those, I would say almost like every cell germinated compared to my Campanula. All right, so we're almost done with this packet. That goes by so quick. And then we're gonna open up our next one. So they're just surface sown, and then I kind of just like pat them in, but the water will really help them make sure that they have good contact with the soil. Oh my gosh, it is very hot. So they come in these little capsules right here. And then again, I just dump them. Oh, yep, all over the place, but that's okay. That's okay. They're going to be easy to pick up. I think that's the first time I ever did it. Actually, no. I did drop a whole container on the ground when we were seed starting in the winter. I can't remember what it was. Maybe yarrow? But at least these are pelleted, or else all would be lost for me to try and pick up regular seeds. All right. Perfect. So just like that, seed starting is going to be super quick. I am going to finish with this. Actually, no, I'll show you how I do this one because it's going to be in a little different packet. All right, so if they do come in a little packet like this, instead of wetting the end of a toothpick and trying to get them one by one, if you're new here, I usually like to overseed, and I plant things closer than suggested. But with this, I will take this little envelope that they're in and open it up. And then I will make a crease down the middle and just try and shimmy and tap the sides of the envelope to try and get them in. So let me move up closer so you can kind of see how I like to do that. So I made a crease right here, and then I'm just gonna tap the sides. Sometimes I will like shimmy them down so they're there. And then we are just going to try and tap 1 or 2 seeds in. I'll probably do 2, like that one had 3, but at least 2 because they're a little bit older. And I would like to, oops, so that one had like 4. If you really want to be more precise, definitely do the toothpick. But for me, I am just not patient enough. And I also don't mind if I overseed. I have found that when I plant them a little bit closer, I plant a lot of things like 6 inches apart, maybe 8 if I'm feeling a little on the wild side. The stems are usually a lot bigger because they're competing for light. So like the Feverfew, I really packed them in and they were super tall. All right, we might actually fill this whole tray. I'm going to use the rest of this up because I can always order more. All right, so we're going to stop right there. And then we'll just use whatever that I had left over from the garden. All right, so we'll stick that in. And then I will also show you how I plan on doing these. So for instance, and I'm sure a lot of the seeds probably fell to the bottom, but here is a little one. I am just going to take my finger and smush in. Now you're probably going to get some chaff in there as well, but there's still a lot of seeds. And then just from these 2 little heads. So here is another one. So I'm just going to take each little seed head and just sprinkle a bunch on. And we're gonna make sure that these have really good contact with the soil. So we're gonna spray them in there really well. You might jump around for a minute, especially the ones that we kind of just smushed out of the seed head. Now we're gonna get our vermiculite. I have been using the Fairy Morris. You can't really see it. But it's a nice fine grain one. I used to use Burpee and I loved it, but I have not been able to get that. So we're just gonna sprinkle some vermiculite for moisture control. All right, we're gonna water it in nicely again, just to make sure that these aren't gonna be flying away later. All right, and just like that, we are done with tray number 1. So I have my baggie here. It's gonna be as simple as I'm gonna take a handful out. Again, I don't know how great these are, but we're just going to take the seed head and we are just going to sprinkle our little hearts away and hope that we can just get a bunch of free feverfew. And I mean, this just one, I might actually go and get another tray because this does fill up a lot. I'll probably go over it with some others just to be on the safe side, but these have been pretty dry, and these are all different varieties. I have no idea what is what, and a lot of it also is going to be that chaff as well. So that's why it looks like I'm heavily seeding, but these are not all seeds. So I am just going to be super generous, and I can even save some of these for next year as well. And then if they do end up germinating, like a lot of them, I can always pot them up until we get them planted out. All right. But I mean, they are just literally popping off. Like I can go like this and you'll just see them falling. So we're just, don't want that in the water. Keep on going. And I honestly, like I said, I might get another tray's worth. I did this with yarrow once and had great success with saved seeds. And then I did it again this past year and had absolutely none. So you just never know. I was so bummed. It was like a tutti frutti variety. And the year before I did a great job, but they must have just all fallen off, or maybe they just weren't ready to be harvested and used. And I was so bummed. All right. Let's see what else we can dig up. All right, I'm going to keep going and I'll let you know if I do get another tray or not. So stay tuned. All right, and just like that, all of our feverfew is ready to go. I have 3 trays worth, and I went super heavy on this tray. I don't know if you could tell, but I just kept going and going just to make sure that, you know, we at least have some in every single cell. So I'm really hoping that using my own seeds works out well, because then next year I don't even have to worry about buying seeds. I'm hoping to have a nice patch, as I mentioned before, when we get the trees knocked down, and they can either reseed or, you know, they'll come back for a few years as they are short-lived perennial. But if I can just collect seeds and then keep starting more starts and just plug in any empty holes. That will be great. And then I don't have to worry about buying feverfew again. And I can always make some more patches if needed. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you would like to see everything that is happening at my roadside flower stand, I am going to also be starting some blue plurum. Yes, I know you can direct seed it, but again, we have a little bit of a later plant out date. And I'm assuming that if I direct seed in the middle or end of October, that I'm not going to have any or even the best germination. So we are going to be starting some blue plurum tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. So if you would like to stay updated on everything that is happening at my roadside flower stand, whether it's seed starting, transplanting things out, harvesting flowers, making arrangements for the stand, and then pretty soon we will also be making some wreaths. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and hit that bell button, and I will see you all next time. Happy gardening. Bye.